If you want to turn your love of writing into a full-time career, but you also want to pay your bills and put food on the table, keep watching, because I'm going to tell you how I made the jump from blogging for myself to freelance writing for clients, and I will let you know what I learned along the way. I have always loved to write, but it wasn't always my day job. I've kind of taken the scenic route through my career. I started off with a bachelor's degree in psychology, and then a lot of life happened that derailed my original career plans to be a psychology researcher. I got a few law school credits, I traveled, and I accidentally became a computer programmer. That was my career for a long time. It's the career that brought me from South Africa to Canada. I came here as a software development consultant and corporate trainer. After I had my kids, I went into IT project management at one of Canada's biggest corporations. While all of this was going on, I was blogging about autism, running, parenting, mental health. I blogged mostly for the love of writing and because I thought I had a story to tell. During my time in project management, I started to think that maybe I'd like to write full time. I was dead keen to escape the corporate environment because I hated it. I hated being in a place where you can only get anywhere if you know how to play corporate politics. When I started at this company, it wasn't so bad, but over time it became the kind of environment where the job you do doesn't matter as much as who you know. But I was not ready to give up the paycheck because as great and all as it is to pursue your passions, you need to be able to feed yourself while you're doing it.
Turns out they can't fire me because I quit.
Most people are not in a position to just quit their job so they can write full-time.
I have not thought this through.
So I started to take on the occasional piece of freelance work. My first paying client was a wedding planner who wanted a page of content about the pros and cons of hiring a DJ for your wedding. Then someone asked me to write a series of articles about saving money by shopping at dollar stores. Then there was an event planner wanting an article about lighting effects at parties. I got a real estate developer who wanted blog posts about environmentally friendly condos. But I still couldn't quit my job because all of this work was coming in fits and starts. I'd write something for someone, then 2 months later someone else would hire me. So I was getting my name out there as a writer. I was building up a portfolio and creating something new to put on my resume. But the money I was bringing in from it wasn't enough to pay the bills. And at that time, I wasn't even really thinking of freelancing. I was thinking more along the lines of getting a job with an organization as their writer. My goal was to get enough paid experience that one of these companies would take me seriously if I applied for a job. My hand was forced when I was let go from my job during a corporate downsizing. It wasn't a complete shock. People were being let go regularly, and it was only a matter of time before I was impacted. To give credit where it's due, the company gave me a generous severance package. So I was able to get by for some time before having to file for unemployment benefits. I thought, this is great. I can take some time to find a job I love. By then I had written for a few clients. I had a portfolio. I had references. I thought I was good to go. So I started applying to every writing job I could find. I sent out my resume to I don't know how many places, and I was granted several interviews. But it was such a disheartening process. I found the whole thing to be extremely inauthentic. Every day I'd open up LinkedIn and see articles written by recruiters that had titles like, "Avoid using these words at all costs in your resume," and "You'll never get a job offer if you say these things at your interview." And the interviews, for the most part, seemed to be focused more on how well the applicant can play corporate politics than on how well they can do the job they're interviewing for. And that's what I was trying to get away from in the first place. I didn't want to trade one corporate nightmare for another, so I made the decision to strike out on my own. I stumbled upon a government program for unemployed people who had tried unsuccessfully to find work and wanted to be self-employed. Getting into the program was not easy. There was a rigorous application process. I had to go through interviews. I had to really make my case for starting my own business. But I was accepted into the program and it was fantastic. I had to attend an intensive business course. I was given my own advisor and I got monthly payments to help pay the bills while I was getting my business off the ground. It was the best possible scenario. When the program ended, I was on my own and it was difficult in the beginning. But I had this amazing foundation to build on, and 8 years later, I'm doing great. I'm doing the kind of work I want to be doing and I'm expanding what I do, for example, by running this YouTube channel. So that is how I made this transition from being employed to being self-employed. Obviously, not everyone is going to be laid off at a convenient time. Some people do have to make the choice to quit their jobs, And everyone has their own comfort level when it comes to finances. Some people can get by on what their spouse or partner earns while they're getting their freelance business going. Some people save up for a while or cut back on expenses. So I cannot advise anyone on the financial element of this because everyone's situation is so unique. But I can tell you about some things you could do to ease the transition. And the number one thing is planning. I'm not a planner by nature. I'm very much a fly by the seat of your pants kind of person. But when I took part in the self-employment program, I learned the value of planning. Throughout the program, participants had to work on their business plans. We all had our own advisors to help us, and we would attend classes and then use what we learned to add to the business plan. Now, I've never had to show my business plan to anyone. The only people who saw the final product were me and my advisor. But the process of writing it was immensely helpful. It forces you to think about what your goals are, how you're going to accomplish them, what obstacles you face, who your competition is, how much seed money you need, and how much you need to make every month to stay afloat. I cannot stress this enough. I believe anyone who is considering a career in freelance writing, or any form of self-employment for that matter, should write a business plan. It makes you ask the right questions and seek out answers to those questions. While this is going on, try to pick up the occasional freelance writing job here and there. It'll help you build your portfolio and it'll give you something to put on your resume. If the client likes the work you do, they may hire you for more, or they may recommend you to someone. If you have a blog, select a few of your favorite posts and add them to your portfolio. There's no rule that says portfolio pieces can only be paid work. You want to expand your portfolio as much as you can, and here's why. When you are pitching for a job, in most cases, the potential client will want to see samples of your writing. You should avoid sending the same samples to everyone. Having a collection of work gives you the ability to send the client samples that are relevant to the work you're pitching for. Next, join a local freelancers group on Facebook, even if you haven't made the transition to full-time freelancing. There are some very good freelancers groups out there. There are places for you to ask for advice, get information, and possibly even pick up a bit of work. Freelancing is hard, especially in the beginning, and you should seek out groups of people who get it. My final piece of advice for this video is to prepare for the reality of what freelance writing is like. A lot of people have this idea that when they quit their jobs and commit to a full-time freelance writing career, they'll be able to sit down and write day in and day out. A lot of your time will be spent not writing, particularly when you're just getting started. You'll be spending time promoting yourself or looking for work. You'll be spending time keeping track of your finances. You'll be spending time negotiating rates with your clients. You'll be spending time getting your home office set up, and there's quite a bit of trial and error involved in that. You are not only writing, you are running a business, and that is hard work in and of itself. By the time you've been freelancing for a while, you have systems and processes in place, and you do spend most of your time writing. But in the beginning, there's a lot of business stuff that you have to establish. So you need to be prepared for this reality, but also remember that as time goes on, the writing part of it occupies more and more of your time. So stick with it because it is worthwhile.